Hi, welcome back. Today we're going to try to cover some basic principles of argumentation in 15 minutes or less. Ralph Waldo Emerson tells us that the argument is something we should put into a concrete shape, into an image, some hard phrase, round and solid as a ball, which they can see and handle and carry home with them, and the cause is half won. Modern rhetorician and mathematician Stephen Tolman says that an argument is like an organism, which rings true of what Socrates said, which we went over earlier in thesis statements. Here are 6 basic parts of a good argument. You want to use effective language, you want to have facts and statistics, you want to consult or use expert opinion. Doesn't hurt to have a moral or ethical position or stance. You have to engage in alternate opinions or alternate perspectives, other people's perspectives, the ones that disagree with you. In other words, have a counter argument. That's essential. And you want to use logic and you want to use emotion. These are good tools at your disposal. An effective thesis statement should identify the subject, state the claim, the approach, the attitude, suggest the direction of the writing, and set the overall tone for the piece. Tone is how a writer feels about a subject. Gives you our 4 tasks of a thesis here. State the topic, the claim, give direction, put forth the tone. And in this section, we're going to cover some things about premises, conclusions, propositions, syllogisms, but mainly induction and deduction is what we'll be covering in the video part of the lecture. It's helpful to know what premises and conclusions are when you're reading other people's arguments or when you're constructing your own. Premises are anything that you use to build an argument on. These could be facts, these could be pieces of support, anything that is used to lead to a conclusion. And the conclusion, of course, would be as it says here, is something that is supported by a premise because it's not readily accepted by itself. These are indicators, premise indicator words, conclusion indicator words, good list to go over and memorize. Syllogisms, which we do have to go over in this class, are not really used that much in modern argumentation, so we'll make this part short. A syllogism is a 3-part argument. It's an ancient argument that has 3 parts: a major premise, a minor premise, and a conclusion. Classic example is here, right? All people are mortal. Socrates is a person, therefore Socrates is mortal. Now let's skip this part on propositions. These are good to read, but I only have limited time here. There are some exercises here that would be good to go over that'll help you with understanding arguments. Okay, here we go. Induction, deduction. Okay, so basically, deduction, as you can see here in the chart, moves from a general idea towards a specific instance or a specific prediction. Induction works the opposite way. Induction moves from specific instances and individual events to a general position. So let's take a little bit of a look here at induction, deduction. So deductive arguments, it is important to note that those are the only arguments that actually can produce, or actually do, they do produce conclusive grounds for the conclusion. When the reasoning is correct in a deductive argument, it is correct and it is called a valid argument. The others would be, of course, an invalid argument. Okay, this does go over validity there, does go over deduction more, but I think we'll just cover that there. So induction, let's see if I can move myself over a little bit here. Induction is a conclusion that's claim is followed with a probability. So it has a matter of degree of being true, as a maybe even a likelihood of being true. Move myself back over there. And then it has some wonderful exercises here about how to recognize inductive, deductive arguments. So these arguments are one or the other. You pick whichever one they are. Is it inductive? Is it deductive? If you do these sections, and I will give you extra credit for that. A good thing to have in your paper is a title. In fact, MLA format requires a title. A good thing for me, I would say, is an interesting title. I like an interesting title. I always think tabloids have interesting titles. When I pass them, and I see the headlines, they're always eye-catching. There's some examples here. Headless body and topless bar, from a big house to the big house, Lord Coke. Here's another one. This was just from this last year. Johnny Depp, dead before Christmas. That was a good one, I thought. Okay, and last thing we'll look at today, analyze the audience. So when you're analyzing the audience, this comes into play when you're thinking about a couple things. You're thinking about overall tone of your paper. You're also thinking about your counter-argument and exactly how to address it. You want to think about, this is also useful stuff for the introduction too, right? How much does your audience know about the topic? How strong do they agree or disagree? If they agree with you, are they reluctant to act? And if so, why? This is a good example of that, kind of addressing how much does an audience know. This is, parents aren't good judges of their kids' sugar intake. The author writes, more than 18% of elementary school-age students in the United States are obese, and no one really knows why. Here is assessing audience disagreement. At this point, various objections may crop up, and that's excellent to do. You can see what, if you see what he's doing rhetorically there, he's obviously introducing a counter-argument. He's saying, okay, here's the place where we're going to talk about opinions contrary to my own. And reluctance to act. This is from the Water Wars of Arizona. Water was ubiquitous to the point of being invisible. Nobody knew exactly how much water was being pumped, much less how much was left. People say we should search for a solution, but they don't want to be the ones to suffer. That's a very good way to understand why some people might be reluctant to act in certain situations. And last couple of things here, when you're analyzing your audience, you want to try to understand what's valuable to them, what's important or valuable to you, and what kind of change can you reasonably expect? What is your goal? If you were to convince your audience of what you're convincing them of, what would then be the result? What would be the goal? How would you know, for example, that you were successful in your argument? These are some of the things that you would think about. And support and defense, we've already gone over in essay writing. This will just refresh it here briefly. Stephen Tolman in The Uses of Argument says that data of some kind must be produced if there is to be an argument at all. That's a good rule of thumb, right? We always have to have data or support in order to have an argument. That is just essential. So that's why in essays of any gravity or validity have evidence. Counter argument we do cover in the other paper, so we're going to skip past that here. And actually that brings us to the end of this section. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful rest of your day.